Hello everyone, my name is Clay, and welcome to another Terminally Nerdy's Indie Impressions, the show where I take a look at independent, non-AAA, and niche titles, giving you my quick first impressions after at least 2 hours of playtime. And today, thanks to Evolve PR for giving me a key, we're going to be looking at the space dungeon crawler with card-based combat known as Deep Sky Derelicts. Now, I had been keeping an eye on this game for a long time. I got kind of drawn to it because of the art style and the idea of it, where you're basically going through space to these huge shipwrecks and kind of salvaging through them. And that's basically what you do in this game. Now, there is a plot here. The plot gets kind of info dumped on you right at the beginning of the game. When you start a game, it's kind of annoying. Basically, you're trying to find the mothership for some sort of government official, and if you do it, he will give you and all of your crew a citizenship, which, from the sound of it, basically makes you nobility. That's kind of where it seems to be going in here. And beyond that, there really isn't much of a story. You're just a salvaging crew. You go to a bar in the town screen, you pick up jobs, you go to these ships, you explore the ships. Eventually, if you find enough location data towards the mothership, new ships open up, and that seems to be the process. There is a DLC for the game called New Prospects, which apparently adds planet-side delving. So you can go actually to a planet and explore like a planetary area. My copy was supposed to come with it. It doesn't seem to be installed and didn't seem to come with it. I do have the other DLC which just came out called Station Life, which adds crafting and some other stuff, but I never really got into that. I only actually played for about 2 hours. And while the visual presentation is exactly what I was hoping for, it does look fantastic. It is very, very nice looking. I love the art style, I love the designs of the characters, and I like during combat you have these, like, comic book almost panels when you do your attacks, and sometimes they have little sayings, and sometimes they don't. Like, the visual presentation is actually really, really nice. The music design, however, kind of falls flat for me. It's very moody and atmospheric, but it is so boring to me. I actually played this mostly while watching people stream, because the music didn't really draw me in, it didn't make me want to keep going, it didn't... Like, the music was just sort of there, and the sound effects are very generic during combat, and there's no voice acting at all, so there you go. It's an indie game, I don't necessarily expect voice acting, but there's a surprising amount of text in this game, and none of it is voice acted. Now, the gameplay is where the game kind of falls flat for me, and it all has to do with the combat system. So, basically what you're going to do is you're going to start inside of the station. You can go to the bar, you can pick up new missions, you can hire new mercenaries if somebody's dead, because this game does feature permadeath, so if somebody dies, you can get a new mercenary. You can only seem to hold 3 people at any point in time, so keep that in mind. You can go to the hospital in town to heal your characters, which I did several times. You can go to the government office to report your findings. There's a pawn shop where you can sell loot. There seems to be a crafting dude, so you can like do some upgrades. The medical station also has like cybernetic enhancements you can do, which is pretty cool. But eventually you'll get in your ship, your little transport ship, and you will pick a derelict to go to. Now, as far as I can tell, I actually started a second game to test this. The derelicts themselves are randomized per game. So your progress is saved. Like, it's not like you're going to go to the derelict 3 times and get 3 different layouts for the same derelict. It's you'll go to the derelict, and your progress is saved in that derelict. There's usually 2 landing sites on the derelict that you can kind of like launch to. The thing is the exploration of the actual ship is done in a top-down sort of grid, and you basically just move a dot along this grid trying to find different rooms. There's a scanner you can use. The scanner will like pulse and it'll show you your nearby rooms. There's different symbols for each room, like an upside down triangle is like an event. A minus sign seems to be like a salvaging node. If you see a red icon moving around when you move, that's an enemy that's coming around, like another actual living enemy. You kind of start learning what the symbols mean, but the actual exploration's kind of dull. You don't really get to see yourself traveling. Like, the closest approximation to this game is Darkest Dungeon. And Darkest Dungeon's exploration is really nice because you actually see your characters walking from room to room, even if nothing is happening. And in this, everything is this top-down, like, scanner look, and it's honestly really boring. Also, you're constantly fighting with energy. So if you run out of energy, your characters apparently will die because their suits will no longer be powered and they won't be able to get oxygen or anything. So you're basically wandering around this screen, making sure that when you were in town you bought energy cells from the pawn shop, and you're trying to kind of explore the ship. And the only time you get to see your characters on screen is either when you get into a fight or you get into an encounter, and then the screen shifts to your 3 characters on one side of the screen, usually the left. There'll be a button somewhere on screen if it's a search. You have to look around and click the search button and that'll find you your loot. Or there might be an NPC that you can talk to who will give you like side missions, some of which are pretty funny. I ran across one where I had to fix a cannon to load a human cannonball in it and shoot her out into space so she could get back to her ship. It's very strange. But you'll more than likely not encounter enemies, and this is where the game really falls apart for me, is that the combat system is entirely card-driven. So, your gear in this game gives you more cards for your character's deck. Basically, each character has a class. That class gives them certain cards in their starting deck, and then their equipment and the equipment modifiers give them more cards. And it's kind of hard at times in the UI to see what the cards do, actually. There was one, I was giving my melee character cards for ranged weapons because I couldn't tell from the UI that those cards only affected ranged weapons until I got real close to my computer screen and squinted, because the text is so tiny and I couldn't figure out how to actually make the weapon mod blow up the cards so I could see them better. That was a problem. In fact, the UI is kind of a mess in general with where the information is and what anything does. Each character can equip 4 pieces of gear. Each piece of gear can have a couple of mods attached to it, and every single one of these things gives you cards for your deck. And even when I was loading my deck with attack cards, there were instances where I would go 2 or 3 rounds in a fight, and the character would just keep drawing defensive stuff, and the enemy would outpace what the defensive stuff would give me. And that's a real problem. It's not fun. This game has RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG. Because the attacks can sometimes vary in how much damage they're doing. What you're getting from each round is different. What the gear gives you, you can get 2 pieces of the exact same gear, and they'll have different stats on them. They'll give you the same cards, but the gear also gives you stats. So you might get one piece of gear that gives you increased attack, and this other one over here gives increased medic. So you're constantly sitting there looking at pieces of gear going, okay, is this one better than this one? Do I want these cards in my deck? And every character has their own deck. It's a huge mess. Combat itself is okay. It's this turn-based, initiative-based thing. On the left side of the screen, you've got your cards. On the right side of the screen, you've got your initiative tracker. It's not hard to tell what's going on. It's just a pain. Also, targeting in combat's really a pain, because, and this is just a tip for those of you who want to play this game, you can actually click on the portraits in the lower right corner to target enemies, and I encourage you to do so, because clicking on the actual sprites can be really, really annoying, as their, I guess you'd call it their hitbox, where you can click, is actually a little larger than most of the sprites, so if you're not paying attention, you will try to click on one of the sprites in the further back of the screen, and actually click on one of the ones in front of it and miss target. It happened to me a few times. It was really annoying. But overall, the game is okay if you're into this sort of thing. If you've played Darkest Dungeon to death, and you just want more games like Darkest Dungeon, Deep Sky Derelicts is perfectly fine. It's only $20. The DLCs each are like $7 a piece. So for about $34, you can get the complete package right now. And there is a lot to do in this game. I played for 2 hours and just unlocked the second set of derelicts and kind of popped into those. And there was a jump in difficulty in the enemies in those. So there is definitely a progression here. The leveling is nice. There's some class specializations that you can do and stuff like that. So like my leader class, use a leader by the way, they're a buff bot, took the Psyker secondary class and had access to horrible psychic powers, which was pretty cool. So overall, it's an okay game. It's not for me at all. Oh, and I actually played 3 hours. I take it back. I just checked my Steam thing. I played 3.1 hours of it, so there you go. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful holidays. I'm recording this on Christmas Eve. And stay nerdy, everybody. See ya. Hey there, I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and a special thank you to all my patrons who are listed over there on the right hand of the screen. If you want to get your name in those credits, feel free to check it out at patreon.com/terminallynerdy. And hey, be kind to each other and stay nerdy. Thanks.